How are you guys doing? I hope you're well. I know I haven't gotten on much here lately, but I get something on my mind. I got to talk about it. I really do. Just sitting here looking out my window, watching one of the cats give the big old raccoon the evil eye. They're crossing past. That cat's letting that raccoon know you need to stay the hell back. Oh, God. I've started a mess with these raccoons eating the cat's food. Man, I tell you, raccoons will eat you. They're ruthless. They were born to be very greedy and selfish animals. Hey, they look sweet, but they really are just greedy, selfish animals. Funny as hell, though. But anyway, cats aren't going to be snuggling with raccoons. It just doesn't happen, folks. But there again, nothing's impossible. I'm sure somewhere in the world, a cat and a raccoon are best friends. Not in my neighborhood, they're not. But anyway, I digress. Um, Excuse me. I had one purpose to get on here and talk about something that's very important. If any of you guys follow Bob Wells, he just did a video about turning his shed into a home on his property. I think it's that little piece of property he bought up in New Mexico somewhere, where there's no rules or regulations. You can put anything on your land. Just know it's off grid. There's going to be no power or sewer or water up there. And I mean none. You got to take your own up there. You could get a huge propane tank and get it come filled up once a year, and you can get a lot of solar and your battery backup and whatever you want to do. The sky's the limit what you want to do, but just understand something. A lot of people that follow Bob, they're looking for this secret sauce, this message to come out of the sky and go do it. This is the way to do it. You can do it. Do it. And they don't stop and think about details. Now, if you watch videos on how I documented this home, I talked about a few things. And I'm telling you guys, please think through these things before you start rushing and going, I'm just going to buy a piece of land in the middle of nowhere. We'll set a shed on it. We're going to do all this stuff. Well, first and foremost, you already know when you buy the land, you need to find out what you can and can't do. Some areas, they don't care. Some areas, electrical and water and sewage infrastructure is not there. If you're willing to live around that and do that, that's up to you. Some people do it all the time. They're fine with it. They don't have far to go. There's a little town close by. They can go fill up a huge drinkable tank of water, and they can bring it for shower and water or bottled water, whatever they want to do. There's a way of doing anything if you want to do it. You can live in anything. I think the idea of it is really cool, actually. But in certain areas of the country, there are certain comforts and things that you need for certain times of the year. Like we're getting into June here in South Carolina, and if you're familiar with the South, you know what that brings: heat and a lot of humidity. And if you don't have an air conditioning unit, things can get pretty tough. Now, there are some parts of the country you live in the Pacific Northwest or the Northeast or something where you could live comfortably without AC if you knew what you were doing. Uh, just depends. Windows open, the works. You may not have mosquitoes and so on. I know in the Northeast there are mosquitoes. Northwest, Pacific Northwest, I don't think so. I don't know. I know out in the deserts you don't have mosquitoes. You don't have hurricanes or tornadoes either, which is cool. But there's a few, depending on what part of the desert. There's a couple months of the year where there's extreme heat. Not a lot of humidity, different kind of heat. So you can, if you're in a position where you can live nomadically in a cooler place and then come back to it, that's all what you want to adapt to do. But my biggest thing I want to talk about today is that people see this video and Bob did not cover important things about buying these buildings. And have I have no idea, and I don't think Bob Wells would ever watch this video. I don't think that he ever would. If anybody watches this video and knows him, you can pass it on that I'm giving my thoughts to this. But I'm telling you, you got to think about some things when you build these buildings. When you say, hey, I got this shed and I got the materials in it, it only cost me less than $12,000 for everything. But it looked like you just stuff insulation in the walls and put cheap linoleum on the floor, and you may put Luan plywood on the wall, which is, you do it right. It's actually, that paneling is nice. You can paint it. I had thought about doing that in here, but if I take one of these and decide to build a recording studio that I'm thinking about doing, it's a little bit bigger than my shed, that's probably what I'm going to do. But that's no time soon. But what you have to think about is one, when you buy these sheds, you buy them off the lot. They are not framed to code. Two, the windows are not energy efficient and they are not built for safety and code. People say, well, if we're off grid, we don't have to follow code. You need to pay attention to your safety and your well being, code or not. These windows, they're not that expensive. I bet you these windows were a couple $100 a piece. They weren't that expensive. It is worth getting somebody, unless you know how to frame and do carpentry, to do some headers and stuff and build 3x5 windows and set those couple of those windows in. If you get like Bob, the shed he was building up there was no more than my 12x25 with 6-foot walls. They were not 8 feet. They're not going to come that way. The framing, excuse me, my nose. The framing is probably 24 on, 22 from edge to edge, 24 on center. It's not even, some of them aren't even framed 16 on center. This one looked like it was. If you get a good shed manufacturer, number 3 or 4, you've got to pay attention to the materials that shed is built with. Graceland sheds, I'm not putting them down, but they're not good quality materials. It's just wood that's not treated. You need LP siding, LP flooring, LP, it says that LP technology in your materials. It will deter moisture. It will deter termites to a certain degree, even though you still have to treat it. There's a lot of strength and good qualities to that. It's what they put in the subflooring of these homes. It's some tongue and groove to it, so nothing, air and stuff doesn't slip through and everything else. I'm telling you guys, you got to be careful how it's built. Look at your framing. If you're going to put walls in it, you got to put corners in there. I had to do that in this one. They didn't do that. They framed it, but they forgot the corners. Make sure that you're doing everything properly. You need hurricane straps on your rafters and on your walls around your windows. You need to get that thing tied down to a wind strapping. If you're in a wind zone, like here, architect engineer said you got to have concrete footings, PA straps. It has to be strapped down. Out there, when you're off grid and there's no rules or regulations, they don't care. You're not going to get a certificate of occupancy if you don't get building plans and it's not to code. You're not going to get power or anything. You're not going to get home insurance on those things if you don't have it built by code. It's not, if you don't have a certificate of occupancy, you will not get home insurance. Now, the shed manufacturer, if you do a rent to own, they're going to insure it while you owe on it. And that's another thing I'm going to talk about in a second here. He talked about. But I'm telling you, be careful of the materials it's made of and how it's built. Watch what's going on. Because these things, a lot of them aren't built that strong, and they're not built to code, folks. It's worth a little bit extra money to make sure stuff's done right. You can tell these companies, listen, I want it framed and built right. This is what I want. Pay a little bit extra for it. Everything's an option. But that's the first question you need to ask when you look at these sheds. What are the materials? Is it LP? You can tell. It says LP on it. The flooring shows LP on it. If you go look at the videos of the inside when I showed this thing, how it was built, you see it all over my walls. The ceiling, the roofing deck, LP on the roofing deck. Extremely important. Number 2, have them put an underlayment between the roof and decking and the roof, the metal roof of the shingles. That underlayment is extremely important for a lot of reasons. Moisture wrap of it, but keep from leaking. They don't put that on those sheds. They don't put a moisture wrap around the build. A moisture wrap before they put the siding in. Important to do. Some places it gets very ice cold, like up in Canada, in the north part of the northern and the Midwest part of the country, where a vapor barrier, where they put visqueen plastic over the insulation before you put the walls in. You don't have to down in the southeast. In fact, they tell you don't do it because you will trap moisture and cause mold and mildew, because we have humidity and the heat and it has to breathe. Out there, it doesn't get that hot, but just the extreme cold and the moisture, it's got to be able to have a vapor barrier to be able to, you get the point, you get the idea, to compensate for that. So pay attention to those things where you live. Bob did that, but I don't know how much further Bob's going with that building. It didn't look like he put walls, but he may have put walls in there. I don't know. I think it looked like he put Luan plywood walls, which is fine. You could paint them, do what you want to do. The thing is that the windows were not to code. I don't know what his plans are. He may not be planning to stay there long term, and that's okay. It may be something just in passing or something for a little while. He wants to go hang out up there. That's okay. You do you, but I just want you to think about the options and your safety and comfort and the things you're going to do. You have to do your research on this stuff. Bob didn't talk about that. And I guarantee you, I made a comment on there about this. I said, I've got videos on my channel to prove this. You're going to have all these people going, you don't know what you're talking about. Bob knows what he's talking about. You don't. How dare you? You don't know what you're talking about. I guarantee you always have those people. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I do. I've been there. I'm going to tell you another piece of advice on this. That rent to own. Guys, Bob's like, well, talk to Graceland. They've got these rent to own programs. They're great. If you pay a rent to own to term, 3 or 5 years, whatever you decide to do, you will pay double for the cost of that building. Trust me when I tell you this. Don't say no. So you better understand what I'm telling you. Because I did a rent to own very quick and short period here because I did it because I did the credit card and paid off, and I knew I was going to be paying off quickly. I paid it off like rapidly after that because I couldn't get a company to get me a loan quick to do it in order to get it done and then have it paid off because I knew over the course of 4 months it was going to get paid off. Everything's paid off, thank God. But the rent to own, I knew when you calculate the math, they take a huge chunk out of that. In other words, they add a fee and there's very little principal. It's like half of it's principal and the other half is paid to them. And it's strung out for 60 months. So if the shed is $6,000, you're going to pay $12,000 for that shed. Just trust me. Talk to these people. There's good rent-to-own companies. Listen, there's a company in Ohio I dealt with. I can't remember the name of that company. They were really good to deal with. The communication was amazing. They'll let you pay extra on it. And if you get a company that won't let you do that, don't do business with that rent-to-own company. Find one that will. Trust me. They're by law, I think you should be allowed to pay it off. Pay it off early. Double that stuff. Triple it. Pay it off quick. Don't mess around with that stuff because you will pay out the wazoo. You're going to pay a little bit extra for it because of the fees while you're paying it off. That's okay. It's like interest on a loan. But when the interest on the loan, you defer, you knock out that interest paying it off early. Most of you should understand this, but you'd be surprised at people. And I'm not saying that people that follow Bob Wells aren't smart. There people are. But they get caught up into this thing and like this ideology, like this is how we can do it. But you don't think about like, well, if you get out there in a van or a car full time, you quit everything and leave, do you have income? You got to live. You got to be happy. Some don't have income. Some don't find out that things are a little bit more expensive than they assume just because you're living in an RV or van or a car. There's things you got to pay attention to, folks. Really, you got to. I'm very fortunate. I worked very hard in my life. My property and my home, everything's paid for. My taxes and my insurance and my utilities are less than $3,000 a year on this property, which tells you that living on grid is not that big a deal. You got to think about those things as options. I just want to live off grid. I don't want to live on the grid. It's too expensive. It's not that expensive. My power bill for the month of May to June, and that AC unit ran nonstop the whole month, $42 this month. $42. My water, sewer, and trash pickup costs more than my power bill every month, about $30 more. Go figure. So guys, you got to think this way through. The rent to own, just be very careful. Don't get caught up in that because you got companies you got these little loan companies that give you a loan. They won't give you any more than $10,000. And a lot of times they won't put a loan. They won't loan you money on a little shed like this because they know that something could happen to it. It's not insured, Got to think about how you want to protect your investment, folks. Just because you got a little shed out in the middle of nowhere. Now, I talked about a company called Roamly. They insure self-built RVs. I haven't found out, and it may very well insure buildings like this. They may insure your self-built shed. That would be cool if they did. Listen, I've got insurance on my shed out there because it's an addition to my home. It's in my home insurance. They said if you get any more structures on the buildings, let us know. Let us know. It's a company called SageSure. It's an insurance company. I don't know if they insure cars, but they insured my home. I have an independent agent I deal with. That independent agent finds me the best rate, a good company that's going to insure my homes and my cars. And, I use Progressive for my car insurance. But you just got to think about this stuff, guys. Think about you could take I'm not saying you can't go off grid with these little sheds. You can do cool stuff. I have thought about it. Trust me, I still think about it from sometimes. You can get a huge propane tank and feed it in, get it installed into that house. Make sure that somebody really knows what they're doing. Come put that in for you, because that can be dangerous unless you're skilled at that. Be very careful, especially with your electricity too and your propane. Man, don't mess around with that stuff. That stuff can kill you quick. Um, you can get a Generac generator if you know what one of those are, and you can run it on propane. That can power your whole house. You could get a whole huge tank of propane, could last you a year out there. You can get your heat. You can do your lights on 12 volt and plug into a portable power unit, have a bunch of solar, keep it powered. Just like my Bluetti AC200 Max. That Bluetti AC200 Max is incredible. You can add batteries to it. You can get a larger inverter if you want to, but you don't. I mean, you get a 30 amp. My washer dryer combo is not a 220, it's 120. It run on 30 amp. And you could wash clothes on that if you get enough battery bank and want to do it. Or crank up your Generac and just turn it on to run your washer and dryer. Turn it on to run the AC if you need to do it. It doesn't have to run constantly all the time. You got things where you can wire a switch with the AC, so when the AC sends a signal, the generator will kick on, just like RVs do sometimes. And once that kicks on and runs, it'll soft start the air conditioning unit. You can do that too. There's a lot of options you can go. You spend one time and you're done, and you don't have to be on grid if you don't. If you can't be. You want to live somewhere it's off grid and there's no infrastructure, that's fine. You're close to a town where you go get groceries, the things you need, your water. Knock yourself out. You can do it. People do it all the time. You build your little septic tank in the ground. Now that gets to where you're going to have permits. Now, am I saying that you could kind of put a septic tank in the ground without anybody knowing about it? Out in the middle of New Mexico, in the middle of nowhere like that, no one's watching, no one knows. Yeah, you probably could get away with it. I think you could. There's ways to do it. People do it all the time. But am I telling you to do that? No, I'm not telling you to do that. But you would need to get a permit, and that's where it needs to get inspected, because the line has to be run a certain way. It has to be in the ground deep enough. You have to have it prepped in the drainage, just like septic tanks do. There's a technology to it that it's safe and it works efficiently. It doesn't back up and cause problems with everything else. That, again, is up to you. You don't have to have a septic tank. You can do a lot of things people do with, potting soil or cat litter or sawdust, and you can do it your own, compost toilet or something. No harm in that. You can do it all day long. People do it. It works great. People do it in RVs. It works great. So anyway, I don't want to get too terribly long. I'm almost pushing 20 minutes. But guys, think about those things, please. Go watch Bob's video, what he did, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't even know how Bob strapped that thing down. But, most of these shed companies, they now, the bricks cost extra. The strapping costs extra. I mean, they don't care if you don't want to strap it down. But I would encourage you to get as much strapping on this thing as you can. I don't care where you live. You live in the desert, they have crosswinds and they have windy days. You don't think it can blow that building off the blocks? Yes, it can. You don't know. I mean, you get a lift on that. Wind gets up under it. Anything is possible. You get wind gusts. I'm in a hurricane zone. It'd send this thing spinning, like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz in that house. So just keep these things in mind, guys. I don't want to be all extreme, and I'm not the be all end all. I'm just telling you about experience. Go watch some of how I document how I built this house and what I went through. I wish I'd have gone through less. I wish I didn't have to go through the county, but I'm kind of glad I did, because this is real estate. Just have to care for it. This has value now, but it has insurance. My investment is protected. It has to be. I'm in a hurricane zone, folks. You don't want to take that chance. $70,000 it costs to build this in the driveway and stuff, plus the cost of my property. It's $100,000 all in on this thing over the course of 3 years. It's a lot of money. So anyway, I'm getting off. I hope you guys are well. I'm gathering my thoughts, kind of what I'm going to do. I may, down the road, I'm itching to get another ProMaster and building another one up, and I may do it. And I'm going to document it. I'm going to do this. I want to try to get on more. I know it's kind of hard if I don't have anything going on, but I appreciate you guys for watching, and like and subscribe, please. Hit the like button all you can. It always helps, and it'll be interesting if I get any comments on Bob's video, what anybody has to say about that. And I might be inclined to share them, because these people are trips sometimes. They want to argue with you. Keyboard warriors, man. Keyboard warriors. Great. Anyway, I'm out. I'll see you guys on the next one. And I appreciate you for watching so much. Be cool. Bye.